Hey everybody, it's Akiva here with your overall general Schoology tutorial. First thing we got to do is start with the URL. fuchsmizrahi.schoology.com will get you to a Google landing page. Okay, now you are supposed to select your school account. If you select your school account, you should land on the main homepage of Schoology, which would look something like this, depending on what groups you're in and so on and so forth. But this is the general layout of what the main page looks like. If you take a look at how this is laid out, at the top are drop-down menus that you could choose from. We'll go through all the different drop-down menus. Over here is your account area. Ignore this over here. I have two accounts because one of them I used to be the admin on Schoology to add accounts and so on and so forth. Over here is where you'll get messages. So kids will often try to message you through Schoology. So that might be a good way for you to answer questions they have, or even send messages to kids yourself, because they're not always so good. Depending on the student anyway, they're not always so good about checking their school email, and you probably don't have their personal email. So usually with Schoology, when you send a message to a student, it'll ding them, send them a notification on their phone, or however else that they do it, or it'll give a little red, marker over here showing that they have an unread message when they log into Schoology. So here on the main page, you have updates that get posted. We're not really going to go into these. These will just show up when Rabbi Channelers or somebody else, such as myself or Rabbi Fried, will post updates. And then depending on what groups you're in, like I happen to be in junior high announcements and the full Fuchs Mizrahi, so you get different announcements on that main page. You're not really going to be posting anything here. This is just sort of for you to read things that Rabbi Channelers posts if you happen to be in the groups that he posts too. So if you look at the top of the page here, we have courses, groups, and resources. We're going to go through each one of those in order. But first I want to show you Course Dashboard. Course Dashboard is a sort of one of these more iPhone-y looking ways of showing your classes. If you click here, it'll take you to your class page. Okay, that's your Course Dashboard. However, that is the same thing as doing this courses drop-down menu, and you could select the course from there. So really the choice is yours. I've always just been partial to this. It's what I'm used to, and the course dashboard thing is a later update. But either way, we find ourselves in the class landing page. You'll notice that this landing page, this class page is empty right now because I'm recording this in August and my class hasn't started yet. If, however, it were later on in the year, you would see this filled with different materials. Here is where this is the main thing you're going to be using on your class for each of your individual class pages. In your materials page, you have the option to add folders if you like to be organized and have different, let's say tests, test reviews or homework assignments or different things like that. That's different than resources, which we'll get to later. Here you have add assignment, add test quiz, and all of these different things that are here. The top three that are really the most often used, which is, I believe, why they're ordered that way by Schoology. We're going to go ahead and look at what it looks like to add an assignment, a test quiz, and a file /link/ external tool. And if there's time, we'll do discussion as well. You add an assignment, you get a window over here. Okay, when you click Add Assignment, you get to name the assignment whatever you want. So let's call it assignmentation, which is not a word, but we're just going to go with it. Here's where you write the description. The kids see the description, okay? And now there are these buttons over here underneath. One says File, which obviously lets you attach a file to the assignment. So that's good if you have a review sheet or a homework thing, or you give them a backup copy of something you handed out in class so they can print it out at home in case they forget to bring it home, which never happens. You can also put a link into an assignment. You can attach a resource, which is something that I have not gotten into yet in this screencast. It's up here on the right, but suffice it to say that resources are materials that you can reuse every year. You can add things that you make to your resources. You can sort them in your personal things. So let's say my 8th grade Chumash material. I had these Chumash worksheets that I made, and I put them all up in here. And I can say, oh, look, I'm attaching this, and your homework is off of that worksheet. So this is really useful if you want to reuse things from year to year, or and so on and so forth. Over here, you can have the option to attach an audio or video recording, which I'm not going to do now because I'm in the middle of my own audio video recording, but you can see what your options are here. Google Drive Assignments is an integration that I put into Schoology, I think 2 years ago, maybe last year, where you can actually go and get a Google Drive file, assuming that you authenticated to your own. It says an error has occurred, but that's because it needs to re-authenticate to my own Google Drive. I would have to do that in account settings and so on and so forth. But suffice it to say that you can attach a Google Drive assignment file to your assignment, and it won't affect your original file. The kids all have made copies of it, and they can resubmit it to you. Obviously, set your due date here. You can set a time here. So let's say we say tomorrow at 9 a.m. Okay, and then it's 100 points. Categories. This is very important. Categories have not been created yet because I have not used this class yet. When you make an assignment, it is a very good idea for you to assign a category to it so the kids can sort through it themselves. For me, I will just say it is a homework. Okay, and there's, oops, I'm in caps lock. It is a homework. And you can then, right now it's giving me this exclamation point because we're not up to the class yet. But then we will have a separate screencast about how to match up your categories here with your categories in PowerSchool. But here's the most important, possibly the most important part of this assignment box. Down here you have these two things. One, and they're both highlighted. One says submissions enabled and one says publish to students. Let's do publish to students first. This is a really handy tool to use because you can prepare things that you want to assign when class is over, but you don't have the time to create the assignment right after you finish your class. So you could spend the night before making an assignment, unclick publish to students so that it is unpublished, and then it gets published in your assignment list, but it is grayed out. See, it says it right here. Now I'm just going to go back in and edit this. Or, by the way, you see there right from that menu, you could publish it right away. So class is over and you go click, boom, publish. But I'm going to go back to edit so that we can take a look at what the other thing that I was talking about, submissions enabled. Okay, this is very important, and you really need to pay attention to this part. Submissions enabled means that you are accepting submissions from your student, and on their end it will say submit assignment, and there is a way that they can submit it. There's different ways they can do it. They can write a text answer. They can attach Google Drive if that's what you did up here. And that's all well and good if you are expecting them to submit an assignment through Schoology, which you will grade on Schoology and mark as graded in Schoology, and then they see their grade in Schoology. However, if you are not planning on grading it in Schoology, like let's say it's just a test that you're assigning and you just want a placeholder to put a date there, or let's say you're a Hebrew teacher and it's really hard for them to do a submission electronically and you gave them out a paper in class, right? Any kind of situation where you're not expecting them to submit the assignment through Schoology, you have to uncheck this. Okay, why? Because if you leave this checked, then that shows up in the student's do assignments on their, on the right or left side of their interface, and it will keep being there until they actually submit it. The computer, the Schoology is expecting a submission to this assignment, so it will be there until they submit something. If you're not expecting a submission, you should make sure that you unclick this, because it's also very annoying for parents who are scrolling through submissions, assignments that are due for their children, homeworks that are due. They have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the list that shows up on the right here to get to the last assignment if you leave it submissions enabled and you never accepted submissions. Because all of the assignments that have submissions enabled are sitting there expecting them to be completed, but they're not. So, they're never going to be. So it's very annoying for everybody. Now you might ask, but Akiva, why can't we just have this grayed out to start with? Why don't we make it default that it's disabled and we'll enable it if we want to? Good question, Aguado, and I will answer you by saying that I brought that very same issue to the attention of Schoology, and they said no way to change it, and tough noogies. So you're going to have to deal with it. Please get in the habit of unclicking submissions enabled, and then only click it when you need it and you're expecting submissions through Schoology. Okay, great. And that's basically all the idea, the whole idea behind the assignment box. We're going to click Save Changes, and now this assignment is here, but it's still unpublished. I click Publish, and then it shows up in my students' assignments and says, yes, this is something that you need to submit. So that is how assignments work. We're going to take a break here and split this into multiple screencasts. So I will see you in the next part.